today we're taking a look at the RCF ART 912A. So this is in the 900 series, and we have a 910, 912, and 915 that we're going to be doing some demos with. So same thing, the amp module will be the same across all these. So you've got a 2100 watt amplifier that is peak wattage, 130 SPL for this for the main output, and 1.75 inch compression driver. So everything is very similar to the 910 and 915 we've already made videos for, except this guy has a 12 in it, is the only difference. So cabinet looks good. They have all sorts of mounting accessories you can buy for these. They have a horizontal, a vertical, and then they have one that goes from this M10 over to the other that allows you to have two eyelets up on the top for being able to hang. So very clean speaker, composite finish. We'll take a look back at the amp module. So you have a standard IEC for input. These are set, and just please always remember this, for a voltage for the United States. So if you need to do anything 208, you would have to open it up and change it if that's even an option on these. And you have your standard rocker power switch and convection cooled backside of the amplifier. And then we have 1/4 inch / XLR combo inputs. Our presets, we have linear, boost, and stage. We have an XLR out to jump to another. And then we also have a volume potentiometer. So the only thing that I'm kind of sad about, I did kind of like the 1/4 inch and the XLR being separate that way for just testing when they come back in. It was pretty easy for us to hook up whatever we needed to. And you also do lose the ability to have mic level. So, but hopefully nowadays, as cheap as mixers are, you could just buy a mixer to be able to hook up to it. Very clean construction though. This top handle we have noticed on all the series. It's kind of a weird location. It's nice to have it, but we find ourselves mainly just using the side handles for everything. So very clean speaker. We're about to go over all the specs for it, and then we will take a listen. All right, so we're going to be listening to a few different tracks on this 912 using our Palmer switcher here. So we will start out and let you hear 3 or 4 different tracks just where you can hear the difference and what all happens with it. So the bass is pretty incredible to not have a subwoofer and this be a 12 inch. So we'll try another track and be right back. All right, so we'll be trying a different track that has a little bit more high frequency fidelity stuff on it. So we'll take a listen and see what you think. And this song just has a lot of information going on, a lot of guitar, bass with a bunch of distortion, and you can just kind of hear how it holds up at decent volumes with that. That 12 holds up really good to where you can still definitively hear the kick drum and the bass guitar. And this last track is the Wildwood Ruminators, friends of ours, live Merle Haggard cover that they did that we play on a bunch of these. So we'll take a listen to it and just check out the clarity.
Today I started loving you again, and I'm right back where I've really always been. I got over you long enough to let my heart ache. Then today I started loving you again. What a fool I was to think I could get by with only these few million tears I've cried. And I should have known the worst was yet to come. And that crying time for me had just begun. 'Cause today I started loving you again.
So cool speaker. We haven't really got to use this in a live application, but we've definitely used the 910, 915, 935s and really like them. So just personal opinion, 12s I'm just not a huge fan of. We used to use them a lot in a lot of our cabinets. And honestly, I'd rather use a 12 over a 15, but that's a whole nother story. But we typically like the 10s because they're just a little bit faster response for snare drum, faster response for vocals, and they can just move a little bit faster. But 12 definitely has its advantages for kind of that rock guitar thing. You can do some palm mute and it kind of comes out. And when we compare these three together, you'll be able to tell a big difference on it. But for the price, all three of these are great options. You step up to that 932 or to the 915, 935, 945, it's a whole different story too. But please hit like and subscribe, and just have any questions, put it in the comments, and we appreciate you guys, all the gear that you bought from us in the past, and just everything you do for us. But have a great day. We'll talk to you soon. So we're going to look here at the ART 9 series. Basically, it's just kind of their overview over it. So the very beginning of this, it just kind of shows how they've changed the game with the ART series. But I want to go down here towards the full journey. So we actually had the ART 500s. They were out in 1997. They were under Mackie when RCF temporarily was bought out by Mackie, which was kind of a sad time, and they bought themselves back out. But we had the ART 500s way back in the day, and those things were strong as all get out. Then we had the ART 7 series. It came out in 2008. Then we had the ART 7 series Mark II, and then we had the Mark IV. So we have had quite a few different ART series of the 7s, and now we're on the 9s, which are great. So the biggest difference that you're going to end up finding on here is between the 7 series and 900 series. 2100 watts of power in that amp module, which is crazy, and super efficient too. The power draw is so minimal on these things. So like we just showed, we've got our input output, all that good stuff. The transducers, RCF's always been known for incredible transducers. They've made things for EAW, many other companies that we probably shouldn't name, but they've been around for a while. So they've got the new 1.75 inch compression drivers in these with the Kapton dome, which I think is how you say that. Really does make a difference in the way the high frequency sounds, which is nice. So they have the Kapton, the titanium, and the neodymium, depending on which series you're going with. And of course, when you go neodymium, it's pretty expensive, but really cool. The drivers, we've always been super happy with the high frequency drivers from RCF. So here's a picture of that. They did really good with their marketing. Low frequencies. So the big thing that RCF has done with all of their cabinets is the bass motion control, which we'll get to in a minute. But we have never had a blown driver yet, which maybe we're just crazy, but we have had hundreds and hundreds of RCF cabinets, and luckily have never had a blown driver. We've had a few amp module problems, but it was actually just need to be reflashed for the DSP, and it was good to go. So there's their cast stamp things. This must be for the 945 because it's neodymium. So here's a comparison between the 945, 35, and 915. So you can see the big difference is you actually have the 4-inch, 3-inch, and 1.75-inch compression driver. And then also the 945 gets that neodymium, which helps out with the weight being lighter. And then you have the 212s and the 10. So see if we can find. So this is kind of neat. So you can use them, of course, this kind of common sense on top of a sub or on a speaker stand, or as a stage monitor, which we've kind of showed you more in the 910 video. We use them as stage monitors a lot. There's a horizontal and vertical bracket, and then over on the right, the way that you can install them for permanent installs flying, they make another bracket. So I was kind of misled or just didn't think correctly. The way they've got that diagram, it makes it look like there's two M10 points on the top, but it's not. You actually have to buy an accessory to be able to use that. And there's the names for them. So as we keep going down, talking about the new cabinet design. So truthfully, I think it talks about the embrace. Yeah. So the embrace on here, it does make a difference. And if you look at our kind of tearing apart the 935 video, you can see that the embrace, it just makes it a solid cabinet. We had problems with the original ART 500s that we had. It was just not rigid enough with the material that was not plastic, and some of the plastic would break. The extremely high or heavy high frequency driver could have problems, and it would just kind of make the cabinet, the horn snap off of it with the driver falling off. So very glad that they have put a lot of time into this, and that embrace also helps out with the sound as well, keeping resonation from being a problem. So the waveguide horns, definitely makes a huge difference too. Anything from our HDL, back in the day, HDL 20s is the first time we had seen how they did the waveguide thing, and they just really do have it worked out between it and the FIR phase filters for you to be able to have a cabinet that pretty much has just zero linearity phase-wise, which is great. So the new vented ports, hey, look, they got lights shooting there through it too. So we put some green lights through ours to kind of show the way that the ports work, and they are engineered for each specific cabinet, which is pretty cool. So here we go, base motion control. So this is one of the biggest things I think the 900 series has. Of course, it's a bigger amplifier, and everybody gets super excited about, oh my goodness, this is twice the power, blah, blah, blah. So realistically, and my brother-in-law owns a really kind of popular car audio system company, and they end up, it's Incriminator Audio if you ever want to look them up, but they make some very loud stuff. They've got some 170, 180 dB records for just output from subs. So the big thing is really not that you're doubling your, a lot of people think you're doubling your power and you're going to double your output. You're working really hard to get that extra 1 or 2 dB whenever you get up in the range that we already are. So the extra power, that's fine. I'm really excited about this base motion control though. So basically, instead of using a high pass filter like they've used in the past, which pretty much just kind of limits where you're going to have your speakers be able to produce any type of low frequency without having some type of shelf or pad coming onto it. This allows it to kind of just have open range, free air, if you want to call it that. And it can go down as low as the cabinet can reproduce and as low as the transducer will try to reproduce, which is super cool. And whenever it figures out you're at a volume that that's not possible, it's like, hey, this thing can't produce 35 dB at, 35 hertz at 95 dB. So we're not going to let it go down that low anymore. So the cabinet is continuously working through DSP to just make ranges in small woofers that has never happened before. There's a lot of times of that 15, the 915, that you don't even need a sub depending on what volume you're doing. So FIR phase kind of explains what it's doing. There's a white paper on there to explain it even further in detail, but pretty cool. It ends up with each particular cabinet making sure that it's completely phase coherent, and it ends up making it just sound incredible, and all the sound coming from the cabinet hits you at the same time. And they're not using EQ, which is going to kind of color and screw up the phase. So pretty neat. They did good with their marketing. RCF redoes their website pretty often. So we've got our 912 here. We'll get a little bit more specific with it in this next video. Alright, so we are looking now at the 912. So we'll go ahead and go up here. So this thing will do up to 130 dB. It has the amplifier that we're talking about, is 2100 watts, and of course that's peak. They've got it range from 50 to 20,000 hertz, and realistically it sounds like it'll go a little bit lower than that, so they're probably being honest with it being 50 to 20,000 at a reasonable volume. So 1.75 inch compression driver. So here's a little bit more of the actual specs. Of course, 12 inch woofer because of 912. FIR phase base motion control that we just talked about. 912 is engineered blah blah blah, 100 by 60 coverage, which is great. I do like the lens that they chose for this. 100 degrees is very good for what we do. The 60 degree coverage, kind of good and bad. Sometimes I wish it was 30 degrees, but I definitely understand when you're just trying to do a single cabinet to do balcony applications and things that are just all over the place. 100 by 60 does cover it pretty well. It kind of keeps it from being able to shoot the distances you want sometimes, but that's usually when you would step up to a line array or use a different speaker like the TTL6s or TTL4s. So all the options, pole mount, flying, there's our amp module. A lot of this is kind of repetitive what we looked at. It goes a little bit more in depth with the embrace. Base motion control again. The biggest things I want to look at here are going to be the specs, if it'll get us back to it. So weight and specs, here we go, physical specifications. So you have an M10 on the top, 2 M10s on each side, and then the handles, you have one on the top, one on each side, and then the pole mounts, and then to our size. Pretty small speaker, 41.89 pounds, which is great. So 25 by 14 by 14, still a small footprint, and just packs a big punch. So 912 is great. I think it has a place, and you're about to hear the difference, especially when we do the video where you can hear the difference between all three of these. So we'll go ahead and take a listen to this.